Why Muslim refugees not welcomed by rich Islamic countries? The absolute truth of the matter is that the rich Arab countries consider these people both beneath them, and also see them are troublemakers, criminals, terrorists, etc. There are several interviews with senior Arab leaders or imams almost mocking the West, saying they refuse to take them and that they warned the West that we need to be much stronger and that the seeds have been sown for future violence. They are literally preserving their own societies. Because it is only about religion when it is convenient. If it had truly been about religion, I think many Muslim-majority countries would have treated China differently because of the persecution of the Uyghurs. Also, Muslim-on-Muslim hate is real. You know, the Qataris are actually kind of assholes. They wouldn't let them in if they begged. They're like the Monaco of the Middle East. If you don't net at least 6 figures, they don't want anything to do with you. Saudi Arabia is all talk and no show. They simply would never. They're sanctimonious purists. In the case of the Palestinians, Egypt, Syria, Lebanon and Jordan all let in hundreds of thousands of refugees, but all suffered because of it, which made them much less willing to accept refugees in the future. UAE also does let a lot of these people in, but they're considered inferior citizens, subjected to terrible working conditions and often live in workers' camps. You'll also see them cleaning up the streets, etc., and doing a lot of the jobs the nationals don't want to. Source: brother-in-law was a paramedic in Abu Dhabi and Dubai. Spent most of his time going to these camps where they often fought each other, and there were also a lot of suicides. My cynical take is this: wealthy Middle East countries love to use the Israel-Palestine issue to hammer Israel in foreign policy rhetoric. It plays well to their domestic audience and to a lot of foreign countries who don't have a stake in the issue. If the Israel-Palestine conflict is ever resolved peacefully, they would have nothing to hammer Israel with. They keep funneling money to Hamas because Hamas acts as a counter to Israel. As long as Israel is bogged down with the conflict with Palestine, they can easily point to Israel as the bad guy in front of their domestic audience. Within the Islamic world there are many ways of interpretation of the religion, so much so that those different interpretations oppose each other so much they are clashing constantly. To give an example, Egypt won't take Palestinian refugees. One of the reasons is that the Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood majorly inspired the Hamas. Egypt is not really cool with the Muslim Brotherhood because their religious beliefs threaten the governmental course. So they won't take Palestinians, which they believe to be close to Hamas and therefore probably hold similar beliefs than the Muslim Brotherhood. Islamic Shia countries won't take Sunni refugees and vice versa because it leads to conflict. Some groups which are generally understood Islamic are denied their Islamic identity from within. Yazids, for example, therefore are not wanted in strictly theological ruled regimes. I think in short you could say they are viewed as troublemakers. Easy. I'm Muslim, black, and some of the most racist people are Arab Muslims. Skull hardcore racist loudly crying. I once watched a documentary on how Jordanians treated their African maids, beating them to death, rape, sending them home after a hot oil incident without pay. All kinds of horrible, despicable things. That made me burst into literal tears of anger and hopelessness. There's a popular saying that Islam came to them because they were some of the worst people on earth in an effort to change their state. And it's helped a lot, but some of that must still be left. King of Jordan let Palestinians in and they killed him for his generosity. They're not the most gracious guests. They have one thing in common, but a lot more difference. After murdering various heads of states, civilians, causing civil wars, and attacking Israel, which drew military response, most Muslim states had their fill of hosting Hamas. Are there plenty of innocent Palestinian refugees? Yes. Is there a way to separate those from Hamas infiltrators? No. Would you risk your country becoming infested with ISIS CSO players? No? Well, maybe that's why Arabic countries don't like risking that either. Frankly, the only reason the Arabic world is not condemning Israel for fighting Hamas. They take issue with its existence. And this just an opportunity to express that sentiment. Still, they would like a Hamas-ruled Palestine even less than neighboring Israel. This is not a stupid question. Considering all the protests and support calls from neighboring Islamic countries. However, it's their version of putting a BLM pic as your profile or in your bio. There are a lot of issues that caused those Islamic countries to refuse any refugees from Palestine. Black September and the assassination of Jordan's king when he was praying are some of the biggest issues. Black September was when Palestinian refugees in Jordan started a civil war that caused many Jordanian deaths. In addition, Jordanian King Abdullah I was assassinated by a Palestinian on the Temple Mount. As Abdullah was visiting Jerusalem to meet with Israeli officials amid his efforts to reach a settlement with Israel, Abdullah was assassinated at the age of 69 by a Palestinian gunman while exiting Al-Aqsa Mosque, after Friday prayers with his grandson Hussein. Similar conflicts and assassinations happened in Lebanon, Kuwait and Egypt. That's why none of them are offering a safe haven for refugees. A lot of refugees do end up in neighboring countries. Typically the poorer refugees, as refugees with any sort of means tend to be able to sort out much better travel arrangements so don't end up living in refugee camps. For example, there were approximately 3 million refugees from Afghanistan, Pakistan and Iran, who both border Afghanistan, took in about 1.5 million and 750,000 respectively, around 3/4 of all refugees from Afghanistan. Egypt, Jordan and Lebanon accepted a lot of Palestinian refugees. Then the Jordan king was assassinated by Palestinian nationalists. Terrorist bombings in Egypt blew up, pun intended, and civil wars were stoked in Lebanon and Jordan by Palestinian nationalists. Turns out people don't use religion to be better people. They use it to feel superior to other people. Because they've been troublemakers before, they assassinated the Jordanian king and instigated a civil war in Jordan. https://en.m.wikipedia.org/wiki/BlackSeptember. When Saddam invaded Kuwait, which was sheltering them, they supported Saddam. They threw off the demographic balance in Lebanon and causing the Lebanese civil war. They proceeded to conduct operations from Lebanon attacking Israel, which resulted in Israel going to war with Lebanon. They conducted terrorist operations also against Lebanese people. https://en.m.wikipedia.org/wiki/Lebanese civil war. They spite every hand that feeds them. Lebanon did take in a rather large number of Palestinians, probably assuming they'd be able to return home soon. That didn't happen. To skip to the end of the story, end result was they ended up having a civil war that wrecked the nation. Look up the history of Jordan. That country took in a massive influx of Palestinian refugees, and it was so destabilizing that it ended up with the PLO fighting the Jordanian king. Look up Black September. Because no one hates Muslims like other Muslims.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Eracast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.